What do you think we should do to fix the economy?
We must cut the federal deficit. It is the most important issue facing the country today.
What steps would you take to balance the budget?
We must repeal Obamacare. It is too expensive. We cannot afford it.
But the Congressional Budget Office found that repealing the healthcare reforms would actually add to the deficit.
Well, it is not the government's job to provide healthcare.
What does that have to do with anything? You just claimed that cutting the deficit was a matter of practical necessity, but now you are selecting methods of reducing the deficit based on your moral convictions about the proper role of government, rather than what would actually achieve the goal of cutting the deficit. Do you see the problem here?
I don't believe those estimates. I think that Obamacare will raise the deficit.
There is absolutely no reason I should trust your opinion over that of a professional organization whose sole purpose is determining the impact of policy on budgets, but I am compelled, out of morbid curiosity, to ask why you think it will raise the deficit.
It will raise the budget deficit just like TARP and the stimulus package did.
You do realize that most of the money distributed through the TARP program has been paid back with interest, right? And that the stimulus bill was a one-time expense which will therefore have no impact on the long-term budgetary outlook. Besides, that's not a reason why it would raise the deficit anyway. All you have done is lump together healthcare reforms with two other programs that right-wing talking heads baselessly try to equate with rising budget deficits, as if repeating this nonsense over and over will make it true.
Well, where are all those jobs that the stimulus bill was supposed to create? The president promised that unemployment would not go over 10%.
The CBO found that 3.7 million jobs were created by the stimulus package. The fact that the private sector lost more jobs than expected has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the stimulus.
I don't believe those estimates. Higher taxes mean businesses have less money to hire workers with. That's why the private sector hasn't been able to create jobs.
That is such crap. Not a single tax has been increased under President Obama, and in fact the stimulus bill you were just complaining about contained $275 billion in tax cuts.
Well, when there is runaway government spending, businesses are uncertain about the future and will not hire employees.
That doesn't even begin to make sense. Are you seriously telling me that if business owners are uncertain about the future, rather than make a profit now, but not later, they would rather make no profit at all? Does that sound logical to you?
Yes.
You have the worst business instincts on the face of the planet. I wouldn't even put you in charge of a lemonade stand.
We must cut the federal deficit.
What other ideas do you have?
We should permanently extend the Bush tax cuts.
How in the hell is that going to balance the budget? According to the CBO, extending the Bush tax cuts permanently would result in an additional $3.7 trillion in debt over the next decade.
I don't believe those numbers.
The Congressional Research Service came up with a figure of $5 trillion.
Well, I don't believe those numbers either. And that just goes to show that economists cannot agree on anything, so why should we believe what they say? How do we know it will add to the deficit at all?
What kind of fucking moon logic is that? That is like saying that because one survey estimated that 8 million people live in New York City while another estimated that 8.5 million people live there, we should conclude that no one lives in New York City.
We should cut off unemployment benefits so that people have an incentive to go back to work and pay taxes. If we keep giving them money to sit around doing nothing, they will never get a job again.
Unemployment benefits are only half of your wages at your last full-time job. If you think anyone is going to be satisfied enough with a 50% pay cut to not try to get another job, you are dreaming in technicolor. Furthermore, unemployment benefits are helpful to a weak economy, especially one in which consumer spending is lagging, as is the case now. When people receive unemployment benefits, they spend it on their survival quickly, which keeps retailers in business and thus prevents more job losses. Contrast this with money wasted on extending the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy, who are hoarding the money in savings accounts and other non-investment vehicles, which have no benefit for the economy. This is why the CBO analysis concluded that extending unemployment benefits is the best way to stimulate the economy, while extending the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy is the worst.
Well, we have to stop spending, otherwise we will have runaway inflation. Did you know that it took a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread in Germany after World War I?
Yes, everyone knows that. But over the last 24 months, inflation has been averaging about 0.6% according to Federal Reserve estimates. 2% inflation is considered normal. The current rate of inflation is actually dangerously low, so if anything we should be spending more, so that we do not fall into a deflation trap.
I do not believe those estimates.
What the hell do you believe? If I told you that I am about 3 seconds from punching your face inside out, would you refuse to believe those estimates as well?
We have to stop spending, otherwise we will have runaway inflation.
Did you know that back in October, the Treasury sold bonds with a negative yield, for the first time in history? This means that people are paying the US government $105 now, so that they can get back $100 later. Investors are giving the federal government free money to spend. It would be stupid not to take advantage of it.
I do not believe those estimates.
These are not estimates. This actually happened on the open market. If you do not believe it, then that is because you are either childishly stubborn or clinically insane.
We must cut the federal deficit.